Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanishi of Open Forum, candid, frank, and live, of course. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free, and make sure you leave a good comment, okay? It's also Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Open Forum, joining me is retired police officer Blake Acton. Mr. Acton, how you doing today? Can you hear me? Eduardo, can you hear me? Hello? Is it me? I don't. I thought we were okay. Settings, audio. Can you hear me now, Blake? Blake? Hello? Oh, so it was him or is it me? All right. Anyway, our guest is Blake Acton. He's a former Metro Toronto police officer. He's running for mayor, the mayor of Toronto. Some of the things that we'll talk about with him are the budget, traffic. He's a fan of bike lanes. As a police officer, historically, I guess safety and crime is an issue for him, as well as garbage, litter, housing, the homeless, mental health, and many other things. I guess what I'm curious to find out if and when we get him here, Eduardo, am I to assume he's the one who's left? If you wouldn't mind coming in here to make sure that I'm on the right page here, because I'm not sure. Is
Yes,
he is he the problem?
he was the issue. He's going to resign in.
Okay, and so we'll have him come back in. Uh, I guess the one thing that matters here, as far as the city of Toronto is concerned, Mayor John Tory has really, I don't know. There's a lot of noise that people are unhappy with Mayor John Tory. Now, is that justified or not? If you live in the city of Toronto, you may have feelings one way or the other. And every election brings out a lot of candidates. And in this case here in Toronto, we have 16 candidates last I looked, and it could get deeper and wider. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that there are going to be a lot of candidates in there that, as far as I'm concerned, may not have the experience to run a giant metropolitan city like the city of Toronto. And for those of you that are thinking of voting for the mayor, hopefully you are. If there's nothing else that these times have taught us, is that if you don't vote, then you're the only one to blame. You know, one thing we've witnessed in the world today is that when the issues get contentious and when people become more concerned about who's in power, all of a sudden the rate of voters rises. Now, not just for the person you're concerned about, but also if you're happy with that person, you want to make sure because it gets contentious. So you have more voters for the person that you're not happy with, and more people vote for the that against that person. So at the end of the day, what it comes down to is voting has consequences. And those consequences, I think we as a society in North America, I'll include the United States, in fact, all democracies, we underestimate how easily, and I say this very carefully, how easily a minority of people within a democracy can rule the country. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about the way people think. You know, if people are in the mood to try and get something and they feel and they understand the only option they have is to vote, depending on how intense they are about the situation, the voting amount of people rises, more people vote. And so, therefore, it's not just a question of only people who are against a politician or for a politician rises, everybody on both sides. But what happens, and this is why it's important that you vote. Unfortunately, most people who, let's just say, are A, unwilling to think about who to vote for, B, their brains short out when they think about who to vote for, and C, this is the worst point. People have no faith in our governmental system, and voting is what creates the atmosphere, and I mean atmosphere, of how politics breathes. So, when I see young people that don't vote, I get concerned because young people are the ones with the most to lose when it comes to elections. It's their future. And it's the election this year that can impact, in a lot of ways, what happens in your world in the future. So, when you're voting, I remember telling my children, now you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm just going to make this point in a silly kind of way. I told my children, look, you've reached the point where you can vote. And I said to them, you and I might not vote for the same person. We don't necessarily have to think the same. Basically, because our needs are different. Our point where we are, it's a snapshot of where you are in your life. And that's what should reflect how you vote. Totally understandable. So as children going to university and the cost of university being an issue, they could vote for somebody different based on who I vote for. I'm lucky enough to have most of my mortgage paid off. So essentially, what ends up happening is I have a different perspective. Anyway, it's good to have you back. I hope you can hear me now. Blake, can you hear me? He might not have his mic on. Make sure that you're not muting yourself. If you look at the bottom of the page, see if there's a microphone there, and see if the microphone is crossed off at the bottom of the page. Scroll down and see that you haven't muted yourself. It's funny. Before the show, we could hear each other. Now we cannot. Technology loves us, doesn't it? Well, so while he tries to figure that out, I'll continue on what I was saying. Finish this point. Hopefully, he can hear me. It's one way to make sure that he can hear me. Anyway, so the point is that 20-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds are at a different place in their life. Now, some from each of those groups could be in the same place for whatever reason, however you want to figure it out. The bottom line is that we can't resent the fact that people will vote different than we will, because it's about representation. When I vote, I'm voting for somebody who represents me and what I think. Now, I'm divorced now, but the same thing's true for my ex-wife. Vote how you wish. There are issues that you and I don't hold as dear as the other does. That's what causes us to vote differently. And we all need to understand that we have to give everybody the latitude to vote as they wish. The person you vote for is the person that you can relate to the most. And there even is the version of voting which says, I don't want that person in, so I will vote for the other person. Um, Negative voting is a way to go, because I'm not going to judge you for your motivation to vote, because voting is strictly up to you. And I guess the most important and I think salient point to voting is, democracy is so strong and it is such a wonderful way of life that we get to decide who our leaders are. And the only thing and this is my favorite thing. I've never heard anybody say it, but it's one that I'm saying, and I really believe it. The beauty of democracy is that three tiny pieces of cardboard are all that's between you and everybody else. But that is as strong and as impenetrable place for you to be. That's the beauty of democracy. Nobody's in there to see how you vote. You get to vote based on how you feel, and that's always a great thing. And part of the reason why we do these shows is to give you an insight into candidates. And today we'll try again. Hopefully, we have our candidate today, and he is retired police officer Blake Acton. Blake, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, success.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, it's good to have you here. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. And, I was just mentioning that there's, at least last I looked, there were 16 candidates for mayor.
I believe there is. Yes, there is.
So I guess my first question is, what made you enter the race?
It's Frank, is it?
Yep.
Hello? Yeah, I've lived in Toronto all my life. I'm 54 years of age, and I've lived here all my life. It's been good to me, and I just feel that it's gone downhill. And I said to my son, we can make a change. This city, we can definitely make a change, and I want to make a change to make it cleaner, safer. Everybody's complaining about how filthy the city is and how the crime has gone up. And with my expertise situation, working with the police department, I feel I can do that.
So here's the thing, 16 candidates. How do you differentiate yourself, and how do you feel you can make yourself, basically rise to the top?
I've lived here all my life, and I've worked with the police department. I've been a civil servant. I've worked with people. I've worked with all kinds of people from all walks of life. And I've been successful in real banking, investing. I'm well versed in many areas of the city, and I don't think I can solve. I'm always up for a challenge, and lots of neighbors and friends. Blake Acton, you've got to run because you can run this city better than anybody. So there I am.
Let's go issue by issue. So let's talk about the budget. It really stirs the drink. It is, no matter what you want to do and all the stuff that you mentioned, on your webpage, whether it be safety, whether it be housing, whether it be traffic, everything revolves around the budget. So what can you tell the voters that is your experience in ensuring that you understand budgets and how to make them work?
That's a simple answer in the sense of, a budget has to be worked on. I think what's happened is, I've started out with nothing in my life. I started with zero, and today, through working as a civil servant and investing and banking, I've become a multi. I've done it all on my own, and when I see all the money that's being literally pissed away out of City Hall, I get. I've heard and spoke to so many people that they're just ticked off the way money is being spent at City Hall. So how and where these people that have been elected by the public on why they're making the decisions that they make. An example of poor decision making at City Hall, and one of them would be we've got discussions about changing the name of Dundas Street, and they're willing to spend up to $6 million plus to whoever it's offensive to. Well, that's the problem. What we were facing in Toronto and probably in Canada is that we're spending money very, very poorly. The city and the city poor decision-making skills at City Hall and at our leader of the pack would be 8 years. Our city has gone downhill. It hasn't gone uphill. So,
well, let's talk about if you don't mind. I like what you're talking about because it highlights your thinking process, which is important for voters to understand. So they're thinking of changing the name Dundas, and you alluded to the fact that it could be that it offends somebody. So there's a historical reason why that is the case. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's Dundas was a general or I'm trying to remember history. I'm not using the benefit of Google here.
Back in the 1800s or something, he was he wasn't a good person or something. But Frank, for decades, Dundas has been fine. So now all of a sudden, we're all concerned about, or not we're all concerned, a small political group, Dundas Street. Well, you can go through every street in Toronto and find something about it. So where do you stop? And people on the majority, why the mayor and city council aren't even, we're paying their salaries to talk about something that people don't want. And there's a small number of outspoken people that are continually making poor decisions. We're wasting so much money on nonsense, and it's got to stop.
Can I offer a phrase that you can use when you talk to people? I have a suggestion.
Sure.
Why make the perfect be the enemy of the good? The perfect being we can spend till our brains blow up and really not do that much more good because we're spending money that we could use other ways to do better things, I think is your point.
Absolutely.
Right? So in politics, we're beginning to learn that sometimes there are hills that you shouldn't die on. So if I understand what you're telling me and what you're telling the voters out there, the hill that is $6 million to change the name of Dundas Street, while we have to admit that it offends people, then what we have to do is make a decision when we elect our, whoever we happen to elect. You're making the point that this is one way that we can save some money and use in a different way. And some of that money can be made to educate people about Dundas Street, who it represented, and now it's not that person, I guess. And you want to acknowledge that it represents somebody that's not that great a person, but changing the name of the street to the tune of $6 million or whatever it is maybe too extreme.
It's not going to change. It's not going to change anything. I mean, things out there that people might not like, but at the end of the day, that's tax dollars. Those are tax dollars. Those dollars could be better spent on helping, people with mental health issues, with
homelessness.
Yeah, I know we're going there.
No, so, I know it's a favorite. I'm just trying to help here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Canvassing and speaking to people in the last since May the 2nd, since I registered to become mayor, people so angry at the way the government, the city of Toronto, is pissing away money, and only one. So it's people want change, and they say, Mayor Tory says he's been in for 8 years and finished business. Well, if you can't do it in the first 4 and you can't do it after another 4, 8, what makes you think you're going to do it in another 4? Let's face it. He must be behind closed doors. He must be laughing and saying, how stupid are these people of Toronto to keep on? 8 years has gone by, and the city just it just keeps going down and down and down. So, my platform and my attitude towards running for mayor is I'm running for the people. I'm not running for myself. It's the people that are going to win. And I think what's happening is the people are starting to get wise to politicians and certain councillors, and they're tired of it. And they're saying if things don't change, we're going to have a city of a ghost town, or a city filled with people with mental health issues that aren't having their problem. There's a lot of problems right now, but I'm cautioning people to vote very carefully this election on October 24th. I think on who the candidate is and what they stand for, and or their previous track record, and or make promises. I'm not. You know what? I keep telling people I'm not a politician. I'm a taxpayer, and when I do it, so anybody who knows Blake Acton, they know that I'm not going to make a ton of promises that I'll have to.
Do you have any other examples of the way the city is making decisions that's money wasteful?
Well, Mayor Tory approved a 21% increase to the CEO of the TTC. The CEO makes $438,000. So he approved during some of the, we were just coming out of COVID. In fact, we're going back in. It sounds like we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. So, I'm getting creators and bus people, the operators that ride the bus and drive the bus, and saying, this is crazy. We need more security. We need better working arrangements and cleaner environments. There's all kinds of people. Why 1% increase to the CEO of the TTC? People are being burned alive on the TTC. There was a woman not too long ago. She was set on fire, pushed onto the tracks. So to suggest that our hard-earned tax dollars should go towards a 21 of the TTC, who, there's obvious issues that's going on. There's people that are afraid to go on the
about if you're
TTC.
right. We're talking if you're right. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but just that people hear the facts. It's an extra $100,000 raise, essentially, is what.
So there are people losing their jobs during COVID. There are people that were really struggling just to buy groceries. A CEO of the TTC, $100,000 of the taxpayers' money. I mean, what a joke! I'll move on to another one. The mayor and the councillors they spent days talking about whether cats should be on a leash. Cats in the city of Toronto should be on leashes. So we're paying councillors approximately $120,000 salary of approximately $200,000 a year to talk about whether cats should be on leashes in Toronto. There's all kinds of violent crimes, and we're talking about a cat on a leash. I mean, people are outraged. So these are all very, very poor decision making at the top level of the city, being the mayor. We really have to think twice about who. I don't understand it. Why anybody would want to re-elect at 8 years to fix the problems in Toronto, and they're just escalating. They're getting worse. So there's more homeless right in Toronto at Sherbourne and Carleton. I counted yesterday 15 encampment tents. So why aren't the bylaws being enforced? And people say, oh, well, There's a few people that are running for mayor. They say, well, bother them. I mean, you have to leave them be. Well, if the mayor, our current mayor, says there's places for these people that are homeless, there's city-run affordable housing for them to go, then why aren't we enforcing bylaws? It's that broken window syndrome. Why was that one tent that was around? We have 15 tents now. Now, do you think about this from the police aspect of it? If you're going to do an illegal bylaw, it's easier to rectify and discuss and try to engage, help, and remove that tent. Now you've got 15. So now you've got all these police officers that are going to have to get involved and all taxpayers' money. So it just shows a lack of leadership at City Hall on why we're nipping things in the butt right when it happens. And I'm fed up with it, and that's why I've run. I normally tired. I've worked 30 years. I've worked all my life. I could be doing a lot of things, but I care about this city, and I love this city, and I'm going to fight for this.
Any other ways that you see money could be saved, that you refer to money being wasted? Because then we'll talk about where you think they should be spending money. Because on the budget side, there's always you have X amount of money, and then that amount of money, you hope. I think I guess you're a person that believes in not spending more money than the city puts. The city can get its hands on.
Well, absolutely. Well, you can't spend more than you have. It's common sense. These are all common sense issues. Money that's coming in from the taxpayers, whether it be from
is there money that you think? Is there money that you think the city should not spend, even if they get it? Does your policy go that far?
An example would be on the Dundas changing the money. That's just ridiculously why we'd even talk about that. Why we're talking about cats with leashes on. All things add up to big bucks, and that's the problem. We're giving a CEO of the TTC 21%. These are just things that were known, but
So are there places that money, assuming that you save it in one place, you can spend it somewhere else? Are there other places that you feel the city should be spending money that they're not?
Absolutely. So we have to focus. Like the city is Lakeshore or in the downtown, the streets are filthy. Let's spend the money on the city services to a beautiful city for visitors to come and enjoy. The mayor talks about, we have to, the world to come to our city and enjoy it. Well, who's going to want to come to our city if the streets are filthy? There's people sleeping on sleeping bags in the middle of on the sidewalks. So let's focus. Let's spend the money to make and it used to be a beautiful city. It used to be great. It was clean. It was safe. Let's put the money into, what are we without laws, without the police? Some people said, defund the police and the bad guys in the world. Let's just, it's like it's going into a candy store. Just help yourself. Spending money where it means the most. And right now, the money is, another example is when I said, I don't understand. A woman came out of a tent and I said, I don't understand. Help me understand why you're in this tent. What brought you here? Bad things in my life. And I don't know. I never would have thought I'd be here today. And I said, well, but the city, they have some affordable housing for me. There's counselors that go on TV and they're bragging about how wonderful work. There's all kinds of housing for you. And she said, well, have you ever been to one, Mr. Acton? I said, well, in my day I have, but I haven't been recently. And bed bugs and drug dealers and pimps. And she said, people steal there. So she said, I feel safer in this shelters and at the affordable housing that the city's providing. So how do you argue with that?
That's a pretty harsh statement. That's pretty harsh.
It isn't it? And that's straight from the mouth of a woman in a tent. Argue with that. Say, well, I guess I'd pull up a tent beside you if I was told I can't, because the bylaw restricts people from encampments, and that you have to go to a shelter, or you have to go to and you're afraid to go there because there's drug dealers and cockroaches and very unpleasant facilities. I'm going on. No wonder we're in the state that we're in. So I would spend the money. You can't just push people into these places without strategies on helping them, because we're not going to help them if we just say, get in that room, there you go, you've got your own problems. So I actually went up to the Roehampton shelter in Eglinton, and I spoke to some residents out there, and they're outraged. They say, that shelter's not helping people. And they say we have to lock our gates now. There's people roaming around. There were people sleeping all over the collegiate with broken bottles. And I took my dog for a walk out there, and needles are on the ground. So who wants to be exposed to all these elements when we don't have to be? We don't need this. And as a direct result.
So where do you put these places? If they're not good where they are, where's a good place to put them?
Well, I think the places are where they are. We have to get the counselors in there. We have to get treatment in there. You can't. What they're doing from the homeless is there's no assistance. There's no social assistance to help them. They're just pushing them into these places. The Esplanade. There's fires down there. There's all kinds of assaults happening down there. So then ship them off and throw them, and it's costing the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. What is it? $6,000 a month to house someone who's homeless in one of these shelters. $6,000 a month. A lot of people don't pay $6,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment with all the luxuries. So the now is not good, and it's evident. Why all of a sudden are there more people sleeping on the streets? Why is the violent crime rate up? All these things is because of a lack of leadership, and that goes right to the top. And I'm furious that he has the nerve to even suggest to be reelected after 8 years, and that in 8 years our city has gone downhill, not uphill. So if you think anybody with just half a brain, 4 years he's going to fix all these things. I mean,
okay, let's expand on safety. Let's expand on safety and crime. Oh, if you don't mind. You believe in carding?
Well, yes and no. I believe ever since carding went up. Now, one side of me says, if you've got nothing to hide, then what's the problem? If it says, hey, we need to gather some information. We need to make your city safe, your community safer, and you're to hide. Well, then I don't see a problem with that. But and I think carding may term for what needs to be done. I think perhaps we can do more training with the police in order to gather information without that's we don't want to offend anybody, so we have to gather information our community safe, and that's ultimately what it's all about. Is I don't think anybody would argue we want a safer, clean to get there is one thing, but so I think I've answered that question.
Yep. No, I hear you. Some people feel that carding is like people talk about marijuana.
Yes.
It leads to other things. That's the concern with it, from what I understand. I don't have a position where I'm sitting right now. Privately, I'll have my own. But for now, there's also TAVIS, which is Toronto Anti-Violence Intervention Strategy. How do you feel about that?
Well, again, that was dismantled, and I believe again that the more in the community talking to the people, the better. I mean, there are a lot of officers with experience and that are great. That are, this is again streamlining the police. It's not like we have to reduce. We need to use the police to our advantage, and there's areas that the police can streamline. I mean, a lot of officers spending time behind the desks that shouldn't have to, and that could do a lot better for the community. I would work closely to come up with strategies with the chief of police in order to use.
Yeah, I hear you. One of the big things that a lot of people are concerned about, and we've learned over time in recent history, that some people complain about the presence of police, while the people who live in the communities where the police are acting in a way that is a reaction to the crime in the community, and so they create a police presence or the community policing the projects that go on, that they're the ones that want the police there. Sometimes it seems that the people outside the community don't want police to go into communities where the communities understand and trust the police. It's not all about people don't trust the police. I think that's something that is of concern to many in the community, that sometimes police are given blame for that they don't deserve, or they're assumed to be wrong. So I assume, having been a former police officer, what the intention of the police is, but there is the concern politically that people either misunderstand what the police do, or sometimes, because police are human and not perfect, sometimes the system doesn't quite go the way it's supposed to.
Well, it's no surprise, and there's no secret. The police come for good times and for bad times, and you drive on people's doors to say we've lost, or we found your little girl, or we found your dog, or what may times where the police have to go there and make arrests, and it's not pleasant, but also good and bad apples in every organization.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to recognize that there are, I would say, with the police force, and I've been in many positions with the police force, from on the street to the court system, to the court system, to the high court system, and there's good and bad in everywhere. I've to get the best of the best for the citizens of Toronto, and I truly believe Toronto Police is not just because I'm a retired police officer, but we're very, very fortunate to have the men and women serve us the way they do, because there's to do things and to see things and to act on things that we don't do. So I've had lots of people say, "Oh, I hate the police. You guys are pigs," and all the rest. And then 2 days later, they're calling the police saying, "Hey, I need your help." So you just call, and the police are there for them. They're not there saying, "Well, we're not going to help you." So the police are always there through good treat them. They're always there to serve and protect. And so we're very lucky for that. So this whole defunding the police, I think that stems from people are just they're not nice. And people, I say this to some people and they don't want to hear it. And I there are people in this world, in this city, that will never be good. And they need to be locked up. And they have to be. And I've arrested them over and over. Is there are people out there? It's too far gone, and they need to be locked up. It's a whole nother conversation with the whole justice system on releasing them and all the rest. But there are bad people in this world that are out to hurt people, and
there are a lot of citizens believe that criminals aren't accountable for their actions, and that might be part of the problem too. Yeah, I think is what you're referring.
Nobody perfect out there, and I think it's important to know that everybody makes mistakes. But I'm telling you, Frank, there's some real bad people out there looking to do nothing but to steal and to cause. We need the police, so I don't think we should be pushing away the police or ticking them off in any way, because he's there for us.
We've only got a few minutes left, so I want to make sure that we hit some other spots. So we've talked about the budget. You're a big proponent of bike lanes.
Well, what I don't like is about the bike lanes are that people say, oh, everybody should be on. Well, some real left wing. They just, everybody hold your hand and cars. And I'm not against bike lanes in total. I'm saying, again, it's common sense. They don't make sense. And that's on Yonge Street, the biggest artery in Toronto, between Bloor and the jam around there. And, you could stand out there with your recording device and you can see how many bikes actually use that bike lane. The residents that I've spoken to in that area, they say it's a joke. It's a nightmare. They all want them gone. So I'm saying let's carefully get the data. Let's do the research and find out where the bike lanes would be most effective. I'm saying some of these cyclists have no clue that, riding a bike is like driving a car. There's some, not all, are going through red lights, stop signs. I had a woman last week, he had to go to the hospital because he was clipped by a cyclist that went right through a red light. So there's lots of complaints. Having said that, if we can have bike lanes in some of the areas of Toronto, why not? I think it's great. If we can, so be it. But we don't ultimately we don't build roads for bikes. We build roads for cars, and to figure out where the space is best utilized. Again, Yonge Street, I've spoke to, we were responding to a call at Yonge and Summerhill area, and the traffic was so bad we couldn't get. It was all clogged up because traffic was backed up, and they've got patios out there with nobody sitting in them. So these are all common. Like the leadership skills at City Hall are so embarrassing right now that it's embarrassing to see what's going on. Again, really want to enforce to everybody and be careful who you vote for this election. You've seen what 8 years has brought us, and what makes you think another 4 is going to change? My experience, it's not going to change.
Okay.
And it's only going to get a lot worse.
Let's move to another subject. I know you have feelings as far as the World Cup coming to Toronto and how it fits into what just try and understand your priorities and allow people to understand where you stand on things.
Let's talk about the World Cup, and they want to spend $300 million of taxpayer money to build a soccer stadium for the World Cup, and they say 200,000 of it's going to come from the federal and government, but the taxpayers for $100 million. That's $100 million. So you can bet your bottom dollar, 2026, this city will be sparkling clean. You'll be able to eat off the sidewalks. But why can they do it then and not the money? With $100 million, we can help a lot of homeless. We can prevent a lot with people with mental health issues. We can solve a lot of problems with that. So what are we doing? Basically a match for the elite to go into their special, viewings, to watch these soccer games, slap in the face to the taxpayer. And a lot of people have said, I don't even like soccer. I don't want to even watch it. That is what it is. But
you don't think there's any economic windfall for having an event like that in Toronto?
Well, another one, they said that's held an event like that hasn't lost money. I mean, and when it's all done, you're going to have a dome, a soccer field, and you're still going to have more homeless people. You're still going to have more people with mental get dirty again. So you've just basically pissed away $100 million of taxpayers' money. I mean, it's bad enough they're on board for wasting $200 million, but no surprise there.
You don't think one of the draws of Toronto? You don't think one of the draws of Toronto is culture and entertainment, something that Toronto's very proud about? Is there a price that you pay for benefit?
But at what cost? I do, but really, are we going at the cost of people's lives, of people in a fancy soccer field, or helping people get off the streets and helping people rehabilitate themselves into society, clean city? That I don't know. To me, again, these are common sense answers of, you want that Toronto and this big fancy. No, let's help the people. The taxpayers want a safe, clean, in their right mind would want a safe, clean city than a 1 week show off of what's going on. I mean, come on. And everybody I've talked to says the exact same thing. They say, oh my God, why are we wasting $100 million to use that money elsewhere?
We've got about 5 minutes left, and Blake, I'll give you a chance to basically give us the short points of what we just talked about today with your platform and how you feel. I give you this 5 minutes to review what we've talked about, make sure that you were understood, and also give you an opportunity to mention stuff that you haven't had a chance to mention.
So to sum it all up, if and when I'm elected on October 24th, I'm going to make a commitment and a promise to the people who vote for me that I will clean up this city. I'll make it a safer city, best to spend the taxpayer dollars that are hardly very going to piss them away like they have been in the past 8 years, and we're going to make it a clean, safe city. 4 years to have a clean, safe city. You know what? I can put my head up high and say I spent the money wisely. Work with the cyclists and the people that need the vehicles to do that, so that everybody's happy. I'd be very very happy at that. And I'm not going to make empty promises. You know what? I'm going to give you a whole bunch of double talk that we've had in the past 8 years. He just rattles on about nonsense. And, you know, people say, oh, you shouldn't be so hard on him. Well, you know what? I work for the city. I've spent my whole life in this city. And then to hear someone rattling on about what years, the taxpayers, I'm telling you, if he's voted in again, I want the people, do not come crying why my brother, my sister, my mother was walking down the street and they were killed because of a bullet that was flown by, because crime, you know, we have to address these issues. And I want to address the crime and the cleanliness of this city. And the visitors from other countries will come to our city and say, wow, I want to come back and I want to spend money here. But right now, you know, I've had friends go down to the baseball game and they say, I don't want to go down anymore. I don't want to even go south to Bloor, because I said, I went to a baseball game and on the way out, we're basically stepping over people on sleeping bags. I mean, wow. How terrible. So, and then people say, oh, well, you know, I'm not just talking about the people in the game that have the money to go and watch a baseball game, but what about the poor people in positions either? So the city is not addressing the actual, they put a Band-Aid on what's happening. Nip it soon. Toronto's going to look like San Francisco. And, you know, I've had more people say the same thing. You think it's vote in Tory again for another 4 years, and guess what? You'll see another San Francisco here. So I want to prevent that, and I'm always going to be at functions, dancing, and enjoying things. I want to be where a mayor should be. You know, right now, only time I see the mayor is when he's dancing on streets and enjoying, and how, not in my books. That's not going to happen. So
we have to leave it there, Blake.
I don't know. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. We're out of time now, and I really appreciate Blake Acton, former police officer, running for the mayor of Toronto. We hope we've given him a chance to establish what he stands for and what he'll do for Torontonians. So this concludes another open forum. Thank you for tuning in, and for Blake Acton, my name is Candid Frank Stanishi. Open Forum is seen live on Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Open Forum, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching. Until next week.